My name is Tarek. I am Tunisian. I am a university researcher and a blogger in my free time. I blog about issues of politics, the economy and society, and I'm happy to be here.
What was your involvement in the changes in Tunisia as a blogger?
I was involved like most other bloggers. Not as an activist necessarily, because I used to live abroad, but during the time I was in Tunisia, during the revolution, we exchanged lots of information amongst ourselves, and also everyone was on Twitter to report on events as they happen on the ground. Of course, most of the demonstrations occurred outside the main cities where most bloggers are situated, but some of us were brave enough to go report on the ground and share those videos, and that's how public opinion was mobilized. And it took around a month to get the demonstrations to move from the inner cities to the capital, and that led to the fall of the regime.
And how did it work on getting people out in the street via Twitter or Facebook?
So one of the good things about the country is that it has a high internet penetration rate. So there's a large section of society which is on the internet, about 45%, and most of these people are young people, including those who are in the countryside where the protests started. And so because of these connections, those people were able to video record what was going on and spread it to the outside world. At the same time, the mainstream media operated a complete blackout on what was going on. And so for people who visualize those videos on Facebook and on YouTube, which was censored anyway at the time, but many people used proxies, it was extremely important for them to keep spreading the news, and this is how it snowballed into a vast social movement, which including everyone, not just the demonstrators, but also very large sections of society, the middle classes.
And did the government try to stop the internet at one point?
The government did try. Well, the internet has always been censored, and it's, I believe, one of the most robust censorship systems in the world. And a couple of years ago, it even tried to censor Facebook, but it did not work because there was a strong movement against that within the youth. So the government decided to keep Facebook open, which was a mistake from the perspective of a dictator, because Facebook was the main the means by which the information got circulated, and this is, as I said, how it reached out to younger people who took part in the protests. Now the internet is not censored, but there are issues of self-censorship involved, especially that everyone is now talking on the internet and sort of exposing their political ideas. So people are becoming more split up across ideologies, and there are lots of self-censorship practices being involved in that, especially within your community of friends. Your friends discover that you have strong opinions about certain issues, and they don't necessarily share your opinion about that, and so you have to sort of account for those differences when you deal with your friends. So.
Curious. In the Western media, at least, the Tunisian case was seen as a revolution created by WikiLeaks uncovered story. How much of this is true, or how did it contribute WikiLeaks?
It wasn't created by WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks, all it did is give information which was already known by everyone. And I think people were surprised that the Americans did not know many things which were obvious to us.
So it was only confirming, practically.
It was confirming what was going on, and it was also, people were happy because WikiLeaks signaled the end of American support to the dictatorship. And that encouraged them a lot. So in that sense, yes, it did contribute a bit to the social movement, but it was not the main reason why it started. I think this is an accumulation of historic events which led to the general rebellion this year.
And how are the Americans supporting the former regime?
Well, the former regime was secular, and it was, for most Western governments, it's important to have a secular regimes in this part of the world. And of course, the dictators were waiving the risk of Islamists taking power all the time, and that's how they legitimated their position as dictators. But it didn't work anymore beyond the point, because we live in societies where being a secular dictatorship is not necessarily the best option, and sometimes people also think that it's important to think of other ways of making sure you don't have an Islamist government in place. And that comes through democracy, for example. Fortunately, we are in an educated society, so no one wants to have an Islamist regime in place, and there was no religious ideology involved in the protests, and no ideology at all anyway. So that's already a great sign. Now the Islamists are taking part in the sort of democratization process like anyone else, and I hope this will lead to new forms of politics in our countries, and as long as everyone is free to speak the way they want, I don't think there is any risk for a new form of dictatorship to take place, religious or otherwise.
And what is going on right now in Tunisia?
So we are trying to start a new constitution for the country, and this is the main work in progress right now. In 3 months, we're going to elect an assembly to draft the constitution. We're still discussing the ways in which we are going to organize the votes, either uninominally or via lists. But in any case, everyone is excited about this new opportunity for the country. It happens only once in every century, and I am personally pushing for a constitution which gives power back to individuals from the state. We live in a context where the state is over-empowered, and I think it's time we moved on to a context where individual freedom is the rule.
Will you run for your parliament?
I don't expect to run for parliament, but I was really impressed by the Parliament Watch initiative in Germany, and I think we need something like that back home. A platform which links people to the politicians who are seeking elections, and who makes sure there is enough transparency and accountability in the process.
Thank you very much. What is your internet address?
So it's Tarek.Cheniti Tarek-Cheniti.blogspot.com, and I'm also on Facebook. I have a public profile there.
Thanks a lot, and success.